Buenas noches a todos. Gracias por estar aquí esta noche. Seguimos con nuestras charlas y el ciclo de conferencias de Arquitectura Ciudad. Y nos parece bien oportuno con el tema del mes de la arquitectura paisajista o del paisaje. Así que tenemos aquí un invitado especial, Rodrigo Abela, y me parece oportuno mencionar que yo particularmente como decano entiendo que sin el paisajismo no hay urbanismo, y sin urbanismo integrado al paisaje, ¿verdad? Estamos teniendo una oportunidad increíble, de verdad, en nuestro territorio, latitud 18, 135, acuérdense de eso. Y siempre digo que hay unas oportunidades ¿verdad? De primero orden, con relación a cómo decidimos los arquitectos intentando un paisaje en el territorio y tratando de una manera correcta. La palabra de hoy en día todo el mundo la utiliza en todos lugares, yo no la voy a mencionar en cuál está poniendo. Y yo creo que es prudencia, lógica y entendimiento de nuestra geología, de nuestro territorio y de nuestro paisaje inmediato. Así que con eso los dejo y dejo a Mundi para que presente nuestro conferenciante. Mundi.
Hola. Buenas noches, gracias por venir. Para mí es un placer y un honor tener a Rodrigo con nosotros. Yo les voy a dar una pequeña introducción de dónde viene Rodrigo y la oficina de dónde viene Rodrigo. Para los que no son landscape architects, para los que son landscape architects también, ¿verdad? En la oficina de GGN, o para los que sí somos landscape architects, Gustafson Guthrie Nichols. Yo sé que se supone que no lo diga, pero para aquellos que son de la vieja escuela van a saber quiénes son. Es una firma basada en Seattle y ahora en Washington DC desde hace 12. El tiempo pasa y no me doy cuenta. Fundada por Jennifer Guthrie, Shannon Nichols y Kathleen Gustafson, es una firma que tiene 45 empleados en total entre las dos oficinas y se especializan en arquitectura del paisaje, arquitectura, arte, ingeniería y ecología. GGN ofrece una experiencia súper extensa en diseñar proyectos que son basados en la ciudad y son en el contexto urbano. Es una oficina que tiene muchos reconocimientos, entre ellos en el 2017 la American Society of Landscape Architects le concedió el premio de National Landscape Architecture Firm, que esto es uno de los premios más importantes que puede recibir una firma en Estados Unidos. El Cooper Hewitt National Design Award también se lo han ganado en el 2011 y tienen innumerables premios que han ganado todos sus proyectos y muchos de ellos, si usted en algún momento se ha montado en un avión y ha ido a alguna ciudad de Estados Unidos, de seguro ha pisado un proyecto de ellos, posiblemente sin saberlo. Hoy nos acompaña Rodrigo, quien es principal de la oficina de DC, el core de la oficina de DC, y básicamente es el que está a cargo de todos los proyectos en el East Coast. Todo su trabajo reconocido por la claridad en la forma, la claridad en la manufactura y en la composición de los elementos arquitectónicos y obviamente el propósito. El trabajo de diseño de Rodrigo siempre se ha basado mayoritariamente en los centros urbanos, en diferentes escalas, basado en el entendimiento claro de la construcción y la relación con el ser humano y el proceso y la experiencia del ser humano. Rodrigo es ingeniero, es arquitecto y es arquitecto paisajista, así que tiene muchos títulos, ¿verdad?, que lo llevan a donde está hoy. Y su bachillerato fue en la Universidad de Cornell en ingeniería y luego en ingeniería mecánica y luego en arquitectura y en paisaje en UVA, en la Universidad de Virginia. Así que sin más, bueno, acaban de publicar un libro que se llama el libro de la firma y vamos a ver en cierta manera un poco de resumen, ¿verdad?, de lo que es los trabajos de la firma a través de su historia, esperando que puedan estar quizás un poco inspirados como me pasa a mí cuando veo los proyectos de GGN, que siento que es una experiencia bastante enriquecedora. Así que sin mucho más, les dejo a Rodrigo.
Gracias por venir. Voy a decir, yo originalmente soy de La Paz, de Bolivia, pero hace 30 años que vivo en Washington y todo este trabajo lo hago en inglés, así que tengo que cambiar inglés. Me disculpan. Okay, thank you for coming. Difícil cambiar el orden de español a inglés. Como le dijo, this is GGN. We're about 45 people based in Seattle. I'm based in DC, about 6 of us in DC. And I'm going to show you some projects tonight. We've been a firm for about 20 years, and I've been with GGN since graduating school, so I've been there from year one. So aside from the 3 founders, I'm the only person in that office who has been there from day one. So today, I want to show you some projects, but I want to focus on the journey. I want to focus on the journey and the evolution of the firm from its beginnings as a startup, really, to its current state as a national presence. But also my journey in that firm from just out of school student to they go hand in hand and they're paired together. And along that journey, I just want to, as we go through the projects, highlight some of the key items that I think help make us successful. And so I've broken the projects down into 3 sections: the early days, the middle years, and I still had hair, and then recent work. And in each of those time periods, I've picked one word to sort of encapsulate what is sort of the key standout moment. So we started out in 2000 in Seattle. This was our office that, when it needed to be, had to be swapped out and become a conference room. We had IKEA tables and plastic chairs. And there was 6 of us, 8 if you count the intern and the office manager, right? And that's where we started. And the word that really encapsulates that time for me is ambition. And ambition, from the point of view of design, it's bold ideas, big gestures, but it's also from the point of view of the individual, it's this willingness to try harder, to care more, whether it's drawing, one detail just a little bit better, or working on one sidewalk and just trying to improve it. Just this ambition to just do a good project, whether it's a big project or a little project. That said, the very, very first thing I worked on at the office was this project here. It was a competition. It's the Lurie Garden in Chicago. I came in right as the competition was starting. And it's a competition we won. We beat out Michael von Walkenberg, Peter Walker, Lori Olin. It was an impressive list of people. And this set of drawings were the initial concept ideas. So I got to the office, Kathy and Shannon had just started fleshing out those ideas. And one of my roles was to take these and come up with some comprehensive summary of what this could be as a space. Not as a plan, but as a space. And so this is a drawing I did early on as part of the competition, an axe of old school, pencil on vellum, and some cutout trees taped on. And this really set the framework for the spatial relationships. And you can see those in this section. Let me back up. So what you see is a big frame, which was a hedge. Catherine dreamed up this idea of this big 15-foot tall hedge framing the garden. And in that garden, there was this diagonal path, which was the line of the old seawall. Chicago's on the lake. The lake used to come this far, long gone away. And so that line of the wall became the seam that separated 2 types of spaces. On the right, in the bottom section, was a painting wall and a dark, fully planted space that you just were immersed in. And on the left was a very open space that was more like a prairie. And those 2 represented the 2 sides of Chicago. Its beginnings on the right as a marshy city that was then lifted out after they had a big fire. And on the left, the open sort of future and the prairie landscape of the Midwest. And the seam itself then became the place for people. And that's what you see on the top left. Now, after we won the competition with some simple sketches, sections, we started developing this model was created by Catherine. This is one of my very first big lessons in the power of landscape. She took a plan and a basic idea and refined it with one really subtle move. And I'll try to point that out. In this model, this back corner, you can sort of see this ridge right here. You can really see it over here. Right? So she took something that was a plane in our plans and raised it up and lowered it down again, creating what she called a false horizon. And the point of the horizon was to hide the bottom of the hedge, to hide the feet of the people walking in the distance so that the space would feel bigger and more expansive than it really was. We were trying to take a little urban block that's about 200 feet by 200 feet and say this represents the prairie of the Midwest, big landscape, right? It was an ambitious thing to do. And just this subtle move of landform really changed how you experience the space. By not being able to see the edges, it felt like an expensive place, and it really sort of taught me something about the power of perception and the difference between plan and section in terms of experience and how you sculpt the space. At the same time, we were doing that competition. We were also working on this. This was actually the founding project for the firm. And when Catherine first reached out to me to come work with her, she said, "How would you like to help me build a 17-foot tall red wall?" I thought she was kidding or exaggerating, but she was absolutely serious. This is a city hall in Seattle, and Seattle has topography. Everything slopes. And because of the way this project was set up and phasing, there was the building on the upper part of the hill, and then there was this lower section that had no program, but it needed to be a civic plaza because it faced one of the main avenues in Seattle. And we didn't want retail because it wasn't civic enough, so we needed some sort of presence. So Catherine had this idea of a big red wall inspired by the sunset. In Seattle, as you face west, which this whole site does, the whole city faces west, when the sun sets, right, there's this key moment between the mountains on the west and the clouds where this bright line of red shows up, like image on the top. And being City Hall with the experience, everyone in Seattle understands. And so there was this idea. And so my role, second week in the office, was to figure out how to start making this a built thing. And so here you see, this is the plan. This is the concept plan that tied 3 city blocks together. On the top, the middle building is the actual City Hall. You can see at the top, there's this big staircase, and then the red wall defines the lower plaza, which is part of a bigger urban gesture. And most of it was about negotiating with the grades. But the other thing you'll notice is that that staircase goes all the way into the building, right? We knew we needed to get from point A to point B, but we couldn't just make it uncomfortable. It had to be gracious and civic. And so, whichever way we made it work, it just didn't fit. And so, for me, this project was where you learn the art of grading, which it is an art when you have that much slope. And you also learn to learn the disciplines. There was no, in the design team with the architects, the engineers, us, there was no demarcation that said, my work stops here, your work starts there. There was a concerted effort to work together. And so we took our staircase right into their building, right through their lobby. And the architects took the curves of our plan and put it in the skylight and coordinated this tower and everything around it. So there was this real meshing together of the disciplines working together to create one urban project. And that project, you do all this for these moments, right? For people to come and enjoy a space, for that wall to open up and become the backdrop for a city celebration. And the wall lasted us a year to find the right mixture of glass that would look red in the daytime. If you think about windows outside, they usually look dark because the sun is so much brighter than the inside. And so, again, the ambition to say this can be done. It took us a year of working with manufacturers to find the right mix and color, and then working with the architects to get that detail going and built. few years after that, we did another We did another competition in Boston. This I call ambition on a grand scale in terms of what the city was trying to do. Some of you may know this. This is called the Big Dig. This is a highway that went through downtown Boston, and the city made the decision to tear it down because it was really dividing their city. And in tearing that down, you can see the highway there. There's all sorts of green space possibilities that were opened up. And we won a competition to design these two little parcels right here between the North End neighborhood and downtown Boston. This was, billion-dollar project to tear this highway down. And so the responsibility and the expectations for what the return would be were really high. And so we took that charge on to create this, right? Big park, the highway's under it. And while this park could be anything, right, you try and you look for ways to make it feel like it belongs to the place. And so we started with looking at the history of Boston. Now, most of Boston is landfill. You can see here on the right, that's the original landfill of Boston. You can see it there, and then this is the current outline. And what we found really interesting was that our site was actually part of the original neck of land, okay, the one piece that was always there. And the other thing that was always interesting is that historically the North End was always a neighborhood, and the city was the city beyond it developed. And the highway kept the North End segregated, and in some ways it allowed it to stay a neighborhood. And so the neighbors of the North End were really terrified of losing the highway because they thought they would really lose their identity. And so while most of the competition brief talked about an opportunity to knit the city back together, we saw this as an opportunity to reinforce the division in some ways and really celebrate the idea of crossing and set up this park not as a blurring of the edges, but actually as the edge of the neighborhood, the front porch, if you will, of the neighborhood. And so we designed it as a series of crossings. So the two blocks linked up across each other, and they create a series of moments as you move from one side to the other of the city. And there's a lot of grading and subtle differences here. This long slope down there. There's topography here, so you can look down into the space and create a safe place for the park between two edges. And you literally got a porch looking back at the city. But we also try to take it a step further and make it feel like it really belongs to the neighborhood. And paid attention to the details and took our cues from the actual fabric around. So for example, the sidewalks in Boston have these enormous stone sidewalks with grooves, which are the original tooling ones from 1600s when they laid these. And we use that type of texture in our water fountain as the slip resistance texture. Or if you look around, there's a lot of metal work in Boston, and you get these wonderful moments where the head is weathered. So we chose handrails that were weathered to the touch and pick up on those cues. And so really being strategic in the details to make this something the neighbors can embrace and feel part of, and not be worried that you lose their identity. And so for us, this project really, obviously dealing with the urban fabric, working in trying to start something new and modern in a respectful way, but also dealing with urban scale. We introduced a big canopy trellis here because this was such a mix of on-ramps, off-ramps for the highway that the streets were so wide relative to the Steel neighborhood that we needed edges. So this element here really helped that to the topography. Okay, so middle years. Our office by this point had grown to in the 20s. Where I am over there. Here we are doing a project in New York. Some of you may know Cecil Beaumont. He's a structural engineer. He used to run ERA. That's Brad Clofield from Allied Works. Actually just started working with him on another project 20 years later. We're starting to really collaborate with bigger teams and bigger architects and more complex groups. And so for this period, I chose the word respect. So as I became more senior in the firm, right? Respect is something that became important. It's something that was given to me in terms of trust and responsibility. They go hand in hand. But it also kind of doubly was a time when you realize it's okay to say I don't know. That people respect you enough to say, well, if you know something, tell me. If you don't, be honest and tell me you don't know, but you know how to figure it out. And so that idea of being an expert in the room of the meeting, representing the landscape, and being able to be comfortable and say I don't know, really comes with respect. So there's the respect that's given, but then also we learned to have respect for the other disciplines we work with. Collaboration has been a big part of our firm, and really putting ourselves in the feet and the shoes of the other people, trying to understand what they're doing, how they define success, whether it's the traffic engineer or the mechanical engineer, not just dismissing them as, oh, they're cluttering the landscape, but really trying to look at their drawings, understand why they're doing what they're doing, and figure out how to help them succeed. And this whole concept that if everyone around you is succeeding and the project's going to succeed, and that you're working together, is something that I think really became clear in this time period. This is the first project I'll show you from that time. This is a project we did for the Smithsonian in Washington. It's a courtyard. It's a collaboration of Foster Partners. They did the beautiful canopy above. And the museum wanted an event space, a space where they could have dinners and concerts and 1,000 people could come and sit. But it was also the center. It's actually two museums that occupy this square donut of the building. It's also a place that most of the time was going to be empty because the events happen at night. And they wanted the flexibility to be able to do all kinds of events, but they didn't want it to feel like an empty ballroom waiting for something to happen. And so our charge was to bring landscape indoors and figure out how to give them both something there, but something that wasn't there. And so we came up with this device we call the script. It's a little thin sheet of water. It comes out on one side, flows across, and goes into a gutter on the other side. And it's quarter-inch deep. It's like a rainy sidewalk. But it has a real presence in the space. And it's pretty simple. When you don't need the space, you turn it on, and it brings the light and joy to the people visiting. The sound of water is part of the space, and the space of sound is a big part. And when you need the space, you turn it off, and you have lots of space. So the flexibility of the space that can transform is a big part. And then the other thing is, when we started this project, I can show you the final result, but to get there, we had schemes that had 16 different things in the space. And little by little, like, no, don't do that, don't do that. We had a glass balcony, we had big screens, a mirror on the wall, we tried all kinds of things. Kept being told no by the agencies that oversee historic properties in the district. And so learning to do more with less was a big piece of this effort. And so it works, right? You get all the people you want. They're actually limited not by our design, but by the fire code. There's 4 doors, and that limits them. And we use that to maximize the amount of space we could take up. But the key here was not designing for the big event, but designing for when there isn't a big event, accommodating 2 people or a family of 4 comfortably. And doing that by making every little piece in that space count for something. And so the planters, which are the biggest elements that create the ambiance with the trees. We said we're going to do raised planters, we're going to make the most beautiful planters we can. And so we have these marble-clad planters. This is the marble that's used in the historic lobbies of the buildings. The marble relates to the historic nature of the building. But it's also, we have weight issues in the new auditorium that's below us. And so the marble couldn't be heavy, so we had to clad it in heavy thin marble. But we wanted these things to look heavy because we wanted to have permanence. And so what we did is we designed these extra big joints for the planters so that you don't see the little joints that make up all the pieces. Right? These giant joints. And part of that, making that work, is making sure that that piece and that piece have the same coloration. And this is the other piece where respect and collaboration comes in. We started working with our stone suppliers and really leaning on their knowledge of how do you take a block of stone and decide how to cut it. And so instead of telling them what to do, because they're the experts, we told them what we wanted. We had really good conversations with them. And then we trusted them to execute. And they did. They did a wonderful job taking these pieces. And I love this picture here. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but there's red lines on the marble. So Joe here was redlining his work, just like we would redline our drawings with a pencil. And then coming in with a grinder and making it perfect. And so, you know, that idea of everyone succeeding together. And the relationships we built in that time. Joe, one of the last projects I'll show you, he came back 15 years later to do the same thing on another project I worked. And once Joe showed up on the side, I said, okay, we're in good shape. So then I'll move on to this one. This is another Washington project. This monster has taken 12 years of my life to literally spans my son's entire life. This one started out as a convention. This is the old convention center in D.C. The White House is about 5 blocks to the left. And everything you see in blue around you is parking lots. So this was 1999. Remember, I started working at GGN in 2000, so this was right before I started working in the state of my city. This is last year. We've now completed everything you see here. Actually, this building here we just opened on Tuesday. It's a grand opening for that. And all those parking lots in that time, now in brown, are buildings. There's only one parking lot left from that original thing. So in, was it 18 years, this entire section of the city completely transformed. And you know, we have our little 10 acres that we were part of. So it's a little humbling to know that you were part of the transformation that occurred in a very short amount of time relative to the scale of the city. Now, while the project itself in its scale was ambitious and audacious, the planning behind it was actually fairly straightforward. Right? It was a mixed-use development, and because we had a super block before, the planning was basic principles: bring the streets to the super block, bring the urban grid together. You know, have sidewalks continue and connect one side of the city to the other. Very obvious stuff. And then we introduced, DC has this weird thing where they have a height limit, so every building is built down to the max, so there's no variety on the street, so there's only one scale. So we were able to introduce a second scale to that grid, which is this system of pedestrian alleys, which kind of look like that. And they allow retail to, you know, double the amount of money of retail, but they really just introduced a different scale. And then within that simple framework of just reknitting the city together, we took open space requirements and distributed it around the site, creating a series of spaces that accommodate different uses and are flexible enough to welcome lots of different types of people at different times of day. And so in this ambitious big project where everything is about very simple moves, it's all the details that really matter. Right? It's the attention to how the pieces come together that make the difference in making this, changing this. So this ended up being fairly high-end retail with very good spaces. And so how do you ensure that it's not an exclusive enclave for the rich, that it actually feels like a natural part of the city and welcomes everybody? So we made decisions like, for example, all our paving is gray, white, and black. Very humble materials, so that they feel like they're connected to the city. Our plaza is designed so that the retail spaces, you know, the pricey restaurants, always have a public bench right next to them, so that if you wander in here and you have a bag lunch, you can have the exact same experience as somebody sitting in the fancy restaurant they have relative to the space. And it's really an effort to be welcoming to everybody. Northwest side of the site, we have this large park, and a large piece of the program for that park was to hold lots of events. So we needed a lot of paved area. DC, it's not Puerto Rico, but it gets pretty hot and humid. And so getting the scale of a big open space right is really key. And so one of the first things we did is we found a stone that, depending on the light hits it, shimmers. You can see the different scale of textures that we introduced in that to give, start to subdivide that space and give it a human scale. But also creating spaces within that have shade that are comfortable, that are interesting. So having the scale of big spaces with small space. And then just doing fun things. Right, so this is the centerpiece of the park is a big fountain, and the fountain. When we design fountains in DC, at least, there's winter and it has to be turned off. So we want to design a fountain that will look good with water or without water. And we developed this system of sculpted stone that, in some ways, is a labor of love. Going back to that, carrying a little more, trying harder. We took a basic approach to photography of just stepping down and started sculpting that in hand drawings, 3D models, did full-size mock-ups. I don't think I'll ever get to do a stone topo map again, but we were able to do it. We achieved that because our client trusted us, right? It's a long relationship. We have a respect and a trust to convince them that this is a good idea. So, moving on from there to more recent work, we're going to go to the opposite side of ambition, which is restraint. A lot of our work is built of stone. So the idea that our work, unlike fashion or say retail, we're not trendy, right? We want to be timeless. We want to be durable. We want to be there for 50 years, not for 5 years. And part of that is being maintainable and sustainable. I've done this long enough that I don't show you the mistakes we made, but there's nothing worse than going back to a project and seeing a mistake, and seeing something failing or delaminating or bent because you didn't choose a material that was durable enough. And so the idea that you do a few things and you do them well instead of trying to do too much, I think is inherent in this word restraint. And so as we've matured as a firm, just being more and more aware of these 4 items, I think have become an increasingly important driver in our design. And to illustrate that, I'll talk a little bit about this project. It's from the project we did. It's a mouthful. The National Museum of African American History and Culture. So this is a project on the National Mall. See, the White House is over here, Washington Monument is over here, U.S. Capitol is here. So we have this site right here. It is the last building that would be built on the mall, and it is also to be Smithsonian's first LEED certified building. All in all, a fairly prominent site. And again, the weight and responsibility of not screwing this one up was pretty high. This was a competition which we won together with the architecture team. There's actually a team of four different architectural firms together. And the content of African American history and culture is immense. And there's this real pressure to put everything in the kitchen sink in the landscape to represent that content. So we have people telling us, oh, you need a slave ship sitting out here. You need a row of trees to represent lynchings lining your walkway. You need, this kind of garden or that kind of garden to represent this time period and that time period. But our museum director was very clear from the very beginning that for him this museum was not a museum for only one group of people. For him, this was a museum for all Americans. And it was a museum that would tell the story of America through a specific lens, which was African American culture. But it was really important that it be part of the larger fabric of American society. And choosing this site was critical in that because it's the National Mall. And being part of that composition of National Mall sort of legitimizes the story as an American story. And so in some ways our charge in the site design was first and foremost to connect this building to its larger context. And I like this picture because you see one literal moment of that. You can see these curving paths here and those curving paths beyond the Washington Monument, literally feeling like they're all part of one composition. Here the plan shows it a little more literally. This basic composition of one path that leads to the museum and one path that leads beyond and through. So we looked at the context of geometry. We also looked at topography. There's a series of plateaus that step on the hill. And so we leveled this out and then sloped at the end to continue that sequence as a way to make that work. And part of what we're doing is, in Washington, most of the museums along this road have two entrances. One at the upper elevation, which is the south side back here. And then normally this north entrance is low, and it's a split level condition. Architecturally, because the connection to the landscape was so important, we needed to create one lobby level so that you could be in here and look at all directions and feel connected to the landscape, which is not typical of a museum. And so setting the grades for this so that you can enter both sides at the same elevation was really very important. The other thing that's happening architecturally is actually more than half of this building is below grade. So most of the building is actually underneath this landscape. And so raising the grades to get that building tucked under was a big part of the effort. And so I always talk about this project in the sense that, coming up with a plan was fairly straightforward. Connect point A to point B. Most of the effort here was saying no. Once we had the basic idea, and the mechanical engineer said, I need a cooling tower here, or the architect said, I want a giant skylight over here, or somebody else said, let's put a piece of art here. And I was like, no, no, no. Right? It was a gentle no, but it was maintaining the simplicity. And I think this image shows it well too in terms of experience, seeing the connection of that space to the space beyond. Now, tied together with that sense of connectivity and experience, there was also a desire to create a precinct that felt like it belonged to the museum. And so we did work really hard on the thresholds that led you into the site so that you could both feel connected but also have some separation. And that's this rise in elevation. But also, the world we live in is one where security is essential. And so we had a requirement for perimeter security. So this big black wall is actually our crash barrier. I just threw this in. This is one. It's always nice when the sketch and even the picture with the person look like each other. Actually, that project in Boston, the trellis came out, so the first pictures, I was like, oh my God, it looks just like the model. And Kathy looked at me and she's like, it better look like the model. Of course, that's what has to happen, but it still surprises me even now when they look the same. So anyway, back to my wall. The challenge to us here was how do you make a barrier, how do you put a barrier in front of the entrance to the museum and make it feel welcoming, make it feel part of the larger story. And so we took this wall, which could have just been a simple 30-inch wall that's 8 inches thick. And instead we made it something wide and gave it presence. And we were inspired by, so the site, it's a historic map, the site is around here. And historically there used to be a canal that ran along Constitution Avenue. In fact, when they were digging the south area, they found some historic stones that are part of that canal, which they now memorialized in the corner. So we took the idea of the canal and chose a black reflective granite as the top of that wall, as a memory of the canal. But also because in DC, black polished granite is also the language of memorials. And so we thought that if you were walking through this space, and you have both the history of the building of the city reflected in that reflection, but also you have this moment of pause when you can maybe reflect on what you've just seen from that museum to be a pretty powerful experience. And of course, you have to make sure wheelchairs get fit, people can walk around here, cars can get fit. And so we ended up spending a lot of time sculpting and shaping these walls so that they could be both a barrier but also be a welcoming presence to the site. And this is kind of how it works. People kind of gravitate to it, sit on it, they run on it. And it's been a very popular piece of it. It hasn't been a detractor. No one really thinks about it as security. On the other side of the museum, the south side, which is considered the main entrance, we had a different challenge. The challenge here was that because of the way the topography worked, the main entrance is actually lower than the sidewalk. So we had to create a welcoming experience that didn't make it feel like you were descending into a pit. You can kind of see here the shape of that. And architecturally, there's a big canopy here. The south side, we're shading the plaza, and it's designed as a porch. With all the understanding of porch or something like that, and a sense of welcome. So we worked together with the architects to create something that worked functionally. So it's a porch that blocks summer sun, allows winter sun in. There's a fountain on the lower area. In the summer, when you sit in this porch, the breeze comes through, and the cooling effect of the water actually makes sitting here much cooler than sitting out here. But also, it does something else. Because we were descending into the space, porch is usually something that's raised up and has a prospect over something. So by putting the fountain here, we can drop this grade. So when you're standing on this side, you're actually raised over something, even though the grade is going up beyond you. And second, this edge here, which you see in the section there, is like that original Lurie Garden image, is our false horizon, which makes, you don't see the feet of people down here, so you don't sense that the ground is coming towards you. And then third, and you can see it here, around the edges, we slope the ground so that you feel enclosed, but you also feel connected to the ground beyond. So if you know there's a road right here, you can kind of see the top of the car, but you don't really sense that. You sense the lawn and the connection beyond. So we really worked hard to think through the details to create a sense of enclosure, but then a sense of connection. And then I like this picture because when I talk about this project, I always use the phrase quiet strength. The building itself is extremely decorative, and it has a monumental presence on the wall. And the landscape needs to support that hierarchy, but it needs to also be strong. It can't look like a Texan. So strength is really important in design. But being quiet and subdued is appropriate for this area. And then the idea of scale, that we can be monumental, but we can also accommodate individuals. Is really good. And just to give you a sense of scale, you could put a suburban house right there under this porch. It would fit on the building. It's such a big space. But being able to find the right design to accommodate people, the welcome is really important. And then I'm going to show you one last project. This is a very simple, straightforward project. And to me, it epitomizes the idea of restraint. This is a project we just finished. I think it opened just a few months ago at Stanford. It's called Ending House. This is a project where we had a site in the parking lot that was surrounded by a series of mature oak trees, beautiful oak trees, and some of them have really interesting shapes and characters. And honestly, most of our job here was just to help the architects locate the building in such a way that we weren't killing trees. So we didn't really have to do much except say no. So this is the building. And what I like about this area, if you look at this tree and this tree right here, they are right there. So we use them to craft the entry experience into the building. And we did some selective demolition and added a few things, but for the most part, this project succeeds by what it did do, which was wipe out what was there. And so it's restraint. So I'm going to finish with 3 slides at the side. So about a month ago, I did an interview with a class in Auburn, a program class, and they asked me to summarize my entire experience in landscape in 3 images. So I had to think long and hard about what to do. And so I'm going to show you 3 images that I think summarize it as well. This first one is actually one I did as a student. It's a section in Rome. And I chose it because, one, it's a section. And for me, working in landscape, the importance of the relationship of a person to the space around you is really critical. And the section is sort of the key way you understand that relationship. But I also chose this image because it's a hand drawing. And for us in the office, even in this, I started out as an engineer. I love tech, but drawing by hand is still our most important tool. And every day, I look forward to that period of time when you can actually just sit down and draw. Not doing the emails, drawing, as a way of thinking, as a way of expressing yourself. It's so critical for our office and our culture. We actually funded a drawing workshop at the University of Washington to bring professionals in to keep that practical. The second image I chose is this one from earlier. And I like this one because, as one of the first things I worked on, it's always a reminder that anything is possible. Here I was, days out of school, working on something that has been a huge success, a really important part of the city of Chicago. But then also I chose it because it's abstract. And the power of abstraction as a way to think about design and space is really important. To be able to take everything out of the picture and distill it to its essence. Whether it's spatially, here we abstract it, ground plane and planting, everything is weight, or whether it's a diagram that shows how something works. And how do you get to the essence of the design and strip away all the things that are inessential? Is through the idea of abstraction and using that as a tool for design. And then the last one is this image. I already told you about quiet strength, and I think there is a strength in the quietness of this image. But also the importance of narrative and metaphor in our design work. All our projects have a story behind them. In this case, the water. These are two types of water coming together in the center: still water and moving water. For the museum, these represented the life and the struggle of people, turbulent times and calm times, and the power of the fact that they coexist at this moment when they come together. But also, it's a reminder that the work we do, in some ways, is cultural. We are producing the culture. We're building on the culture that came before us, and we're producing the culture that will come after us. And so remembering that, even after you solve all the technical things and you got your stuff built, you're contributing to that larger culture, and you're working on the shoulders of others that are before you. That reminder is always important. So, thank you.
First of all, primero de todo, gracias, Rodrigo. I don't know if you can get questions. Si alguien tiene preguntas, aprovechen. Hoy en día no hay más ninguno.
Last call.
Los de mi clase que están aquí. Last call. Last call.
Yo quisiera preguntar si te han pedido añadir la letra de tu nombre a la firma que ya tienen.
La firma se llamaba Gustavs & Partners. Y después cambió a Gustavs & Guthrie Nickel, que casi no se puede decir, nadie lo dice bien. Y somos 9 ahora que estamos en el leadership de la firma, así que lo cambiamos ahora a GGN, no más nombres, más simple, que así todos lo compartimos.
I wanted to know what would you say was the biggest difficulty doing all the different disciplines in the City Hall project?
I'll tell you 2. The first one was actually a happy accident. One of the first tasks I had to do in the City Hall project was design the pattern for the walls. Pull the picture. So this pattern in here, we had an agreement with the architects that we would design the landscape walls and they would take our pattern up to their building. And I like math, so I came up with this crazy idea of a Fibonacci series and these really thin bands that go up and they vary. And because of the size of the stone, it has to be thick, like a brick, right? So I drew this like week 3 in the office, and people liked it. Okay, we're doing this, and it started showing up on everybody's drawings. About a year into the project, as we were doing cost estimates, it turns out that the original estimates for the building were based on large-scale pieces of stone that were only, 3/4 of an inch thick. So all of a sudden, we had the same area of stone, but we had 4 times as much volume. So there was this big problem, budget-wise. And I was sitting in the back corner thinking, God, I hope no one knows that this is my fault. And so that sort of illustrates that at the time, not knowing the entire process of design, making decisions, and not understanding the repercussions way down the line, that's a big problem because you just don't have the experience to know that. Later on, that MEP engineer is going to need this much space over here, or this is going to impact the budget. In this case, it was a fortunate accident. I was too naive to know any better, and I could come up with this, and people like this, so we figured out how to make it work. The other one was there was less the disciplines and more the client. This red wall was clearly our idea and something we wanted to carry through and figure out. The architects were fine with that because we had a really good relationship. But the client said, that's architecture. Why are his landscape spending time and fee on architecture? And so coming up with a system where the client was comfortable allowing us to pursue this to a degree and then handing it off to the architects in detail. So, okay, I'll do the long-winded version. So I started out as an engineer, right? And as I was last year engineering, I was interviewing for jobs. And then I had gone to a great university and taken advantage of being there and taking all kinds of classes outside of engineering. And as I was interviewing for jobs and sort of getting a handle on the trajectory of mechanical engineers, it seemed like you started out pretty broad, which is why I chose to become an engineer in the first place. But in the profession, you narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And after 20 years, you became the master of the widget, right? So it was this sort of pyramid of experience. And that didn't sit right with me. My eyes have been opened. There's another world at the university and all these other possible things. So I was looking for something where it's the opposite, where I could start with little knowledge and just expand and engage in different ways. And so architecture had that possibility. But as I was in school, the landscape program was also there. And I started taking classes in both disciplines. And there was something about the ability of landscape to operate both at the scale of a city and plan, but also at the very specific scale of individual section that really appealed to me. And so I made that shift. And together with the idea that you can engage landscape at so many levels, right? You can be conceptual, you can be focused on narratives, you can focus on plans, you can focus on construction. There's so many ways to engage it in a profession, in an individual project that it met those requirements, but are also appeal to my sense of scale.
How do you design the slopes and the grading, the subtle grading on those projects? Or do you design models or sections or like? Because I don't know, like when you're designing, like I don't know how do you know that's gonna look like that, and how do you know that it's gonna feel like? I know that you have many projects with that
Yeah.
kind of.
You find different ways, right? So for example, the courtyard, the water strip, that's a 1.5% slope for the water. We went to Home Depot, bought plywood, and set it up in Catherine's backyard and tried it, right? She used mirrors to figure out where the reflection would be, right? We were really unsure, so we just figured it out. For larger projects, that complex staircases like that, Excel. I can spend hours talking to you about design, grading in Excel, and do link formulas to get the math to work out right. But then pairing that with experience. So, I can tell you right now, the stair is 5 inches high, 15 wide, and that slope is 30%. That's really comfortable. Like, always measuring stairs, sort of saying, okay, is this comfortable, is this not? And tying this back to experience. Catherine, always references Versailles. Oh, my Versailles stair, it's this dimension. So it's being out in the world and looking at things.
And I mean, like the subtle slopes you have in the drawings that with the horizon, the false
Well,
horizon.
it's the same thing. You go out and you visit the world. You're like, okay, I'm standing here. That's 3 feet higher than where I am. That feels good. You find yourself in a city like Siena. This slope is good. Let me measure it. And you start building a catalog of these things. So traveling is a big part of it. And then when you don't know, you test it. And now these days, we're starting to use VR in the office a lot. It's really powerful to be able to walk into space and see it. And actually, so lots of times, struggle. Sí, 10 años. Yo nací en La Paz, Bolivia, que está a 1.500 metros sobre la Liga del Mar. En La Paz crecen, creo que 2 árboles y nada más. Y yo creo que a mi diseño se nota que a mí me interesa más el espacio que las plantas individuales. Hay otra gente que no les interesa las plantas. Para mí es todo el espacio. Yo creo que eso viene de la paz y es de la paz. Sí.
Como la parte de ingeniería mecánica, ¿te integra a la parte de arquitectura, paisajista o...?
Lo interesante es que cuando otros saben que yo he sido ingeniero, te dan más respeto. Eso pasa. Pero también yo respeto al ingeniero suficientemente para decir, tú haces lo que tú sabes, yo me voy a meter ahí. Y en reuniones y otras cosas también sé cómo preguntar y hablar con ellos para decir, puede hacer eso, puede hacer eso.
You mentioned that you're using yarn now in the office. How's the
VR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understood yarn, okay.
No, VR.
Yarn.
Virtual reality.
We sit there.
Well, I understood some problem here. That's interesting.
Sorry to try that.
Okay, irrelevant.
We're not buying yarn. ¿Quién más? That's call. Bueno,
All right, get back.
gracias. Okay.
I have one more. Is there a project that you didn't show today that you think encompasses all that your firm is about?
That I didn't share today?
Yeah.
Yes. We did a project, we recently opened a project at the University of Washington where it's a land bridge, right? So there's a big campus space, it's long, that had to cross over a road and connect to the other side. And I don't know, the space is probably 100 feet wide or something. But making a bridge, a land bridge 100 feet wide over a road that's also a bicycle path, one makes a miserable experience for the people below because it's dark Two, it's really expensive. And so what we did is we actually shaped the bridge like an hourglass. Eastern Washington has a lot of Gothic architecture, which are inspired by that. What that allowed us to do is make the bridge section really narrow and the approach to the bridge really generous. And so it goes in and it comes out. It's related to the typology of the university, but it also achieves lots of things with one jet facility. And that idea of integrating lots of different things into one gesture, I think is one of the what we try to do and strive to do, and doing it in a way that solves lots of problems. If you look on our website, you'll see it. That was a good example of that.
Avance.
Yeah?
Well,
Hay que avanzar.
the representation thing forwards, meaning like we are expanding our horizons. I think as architects, is a firm, even though we design nowadays for units, we design for a ecosystem. Are you ever a firm looking towards that, or?
Yeah, we're definitely looking a lot more designing more complex plantings that are very native, got wildlife, complex ecosystems, and try to bring back in. Most of our projects are urban, so how do you bring that into an urban area? We don't do a lot of big, farmland techniques or river restoration. We don't have expertise in that, but we're heading in that direction within an urban context.
Yeah, first of all,
Something
Se te oye. Okay, se oye.
when you find yourself with a project that has a lot of landscape, like typography-wise, versus a project that is more flat, like say, where do you find more complexity representing space or different heights or texture with those two scenarios?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So, the past 5 years, I've been working on a whole range of projects for the State Department. I've been doing embassies and consulates all over the country. I can't show you those, so I didn't bring them. But those projects, one of them had 25 meters of grade change, and I'm working on one right now that's dead flat. Right? And when it's dead flat, in some ways it's harder because you're trying to figure out how to shape space. And so what we rely on is understanding why the space is there. So what's the program? Is this a space that people go into? Is it a space that's a buffer? Is it seen from somewhere else? And then use how that space is the way to guide what its design should be. Sometimes you just need a big flat empty space. That's okay. Other times you need to fill that space and find that balance. And then there's a lot. I'm working on one in Thailand. So the amount of plans and texture I have available to me is almost infinite. So it makes it a little easier. We're doing a project in San Antonio, Texas, where the climate is arid and dry, and it's a very different type of sense of space. And there, it's more about punctuating moments and letting the rest of it be. So it's be inspired by the local